Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Coming Distractions brought to you by the Nerdpocalypse podcast. I'm your host, Jay. I'm here with my co-host, Jack.
What's up?
All right, we're back, Jack. Thank you for returning.
Happy to be here.
Holy shit. Good. It's been 1,000 years, I think.
Yeah, but it feels like I never left.
There you go.
So it's nice to be here.
So we are back. I'm sorry to bring you back on such a momentous occasion. We're back to talk about Venom. We both went and saw the press screening for this, and it was something.
It was.
So obviously Venom is the 2018 superhero movie. We're not refer to this as a film.
Yeah, that was the conversation we had right before this started. This is definitely a movie and not a film, for sure.
Not by any means.
Different categories.
Directed by Ruben Fleischer, produced by Avi Arad. And I normally wouldn't mention the producer, but that's really important.
I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah. That's a really important fact that we'll talk about later. So this was obviously starring Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock / Venom and Michelle Williams. And also Riz Ahmed. So I'll start with you, Jack. What were your general thoughts of the movie with obviously no spoilers?
It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. With that said, it's still pretty bad. Watchable trash, I think, was the first thing that came up when I talked about this to some other people, which I think is an apt description.
Yeah, I think so.
This movie would have been great if it came out in 2005 and we didn't have the last decade and 5 years to reflect on the Marvel universe, right?
Right.
It's dark to hide bad CG, and it takes way too long to get going, like all the old origin story movies used to. And it's
40 minutes. 40 minutes of just
we timed it.
Sad Eddie Brock of my life and woe is me parts of his life.
Yeah, and that I think was one of the biggest flaws to the movie. With that said, it's funny in parts, even when it's not supposed to be funny. It's still funny. Right. Tom Hardy does a really good job, I thought, portraying someone who is just absolutely confused as to what is happening to him and just kind of has to roll with it.
Like I don't think he's acting. I think that's his reaction to the script, which is, huh? What? Wait, okay. This is what I'm saying now?
Yeah. Before I get to the script, Michelle Williams is passable and serviceable as she is in everything. It's a shame she's in this movie.
Yeah, she should stay out. I would argue she should stay completely out of like blockbusters and stick completely to indie movies. That's where she shines.
Yeah, and that was what she said when she was interviewed about this. She blatantly came out and said, I did this for the money, because I need the money. So this is what pays for me to be able to do indie films. So now I'm in Venom. Some of it was funny. Some of the fight scenes were good. None of the plot made sense. And if you're a fan of the Venom character, of the Venom comic character, this movie did your character a disservice from that.
I agree
in
with
that regard.
Yeah.
If you just like superhero movies and you just want to see something that's big, dumb, fun, this is big and dumb and funny in parts. But not as good as it would have been if we had a DeLorean and it could hop back in time to 2005.
Right. Okay. I would probably echo most of those sentiments. I don't know that I would say the fight scenes were any of them were any good. There's
what you could see of them.
Right, because there's a scene closer to the end, sort of like this culmination of the movie. And we literally like laughed when we sat there and watched it because it was just CGI just firing at the screen. You had no idea what was happening. You could barely see. It was moving way too quick. It was too dark. It was just like soup. Like it was really weird. The sentiment, and I think a lot of people have been saying this, and it's because it's accurate, which is this movie is trapped in time. Right? This movie is not a movie that should come out in 2018. It feels like a script from the early 2000s. There was that sort of post Spider-Man, pre MCU era where there was just like throw every superhero at the screen, right? Like they're just thrown out. And the movie that I connect this movie with the most, people are like, oh, it's like Spawn or something like that. No, it's the first Ghost Rider is what it is to me. Very much in that same thing. It's like big name actor. Why are you even in this movie? And it's okay. We're going to give you this sad life thing for 30 to 40 minutes. And then eventually the person gets their powers. And then it's just really cheesy orchestrated ending fight scene, like literally like on a platform that couldn't be more filmed in a way of like, this is the last fight. Like, you know that this is happening, right?
Yeah. Very clear 3-act structure. Like, we looked at each other and we were like, all right, that was the end of Act 2. So here we go.
Like, this is obviously it, right? So there's that part of it. And the reason why, by the way, the reason why I brought up Avi Arad is because Avi Arad is responsible for producing the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, right? He was a big force behind it. Like, hey, these Spider-Man movies are going to be awesome. Let's do it. And he was right? They were huge. Whether you liked them or not, they were still huge. The problem is he was the one who pushed for Venom to be in Spider-Man 3 against Sam Raimi's objections. He didn't want that.
For sure.
And so when he did that and they put Venom in, it just didn't work. Raimi may have kind of like been like, fuck it, I'm not going to really do it.
There's rumors he sabotaged himself in that movie. And having looked into the story of that a couple of different times, I mean, you can kind of lean either way.
Right, who knows?
Right.
But so Arad was big into putting Venom. He's been pushing Venom as like this. He could be, bigger than Spider-Man practically, right? Which is laughable. Proving that Arad doesn't know anything about Spider-Man as a character.
Is that when he peaked though? Like, if you think about it, like he had to have peaked not only as a creative person, but like as a person entirely. Because if you continue to read comics, those characters, not even just those specific characters, but other comic characters, have evolved beyond the point of what we're presented with in this movie.
Yeah. Like, to me, when I heard that they were doing a Venom movie, the first thing I thought was, I hope they do Agent Venom. Because that could actually work, right? Cool. Because, like, the idea that you're taking the symbiote and, you're taking him, okay, you're making him this hero type character. Well, then give him the sort of hero story. And he's like, you could make it this military story and they drop this guy off and he's like kicking ass for the country and all this other stuff. He's a wounded soldier. Like, you could play it in a much better way, but they played it as the straight Venom story and it just doesn't work. It really didn't. But again, the point about Arad is big, which is, he is still functioning in a very early 2000s. This is Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2 world. And his Venom movie doesn't necessarily feel like it would have fit into that, but he was like, he's really edgy. Like, I can see the boardroom meeting of him being like, yeah, he's like Spider-Man, but like really edgy, tell a dirty joke or something. And they were like, oh, okay, cool. That sounds awesome. And then they made the movie and it was like, this is not cool. This is not cool at all.
According to what I have read, there's a good movie somewhere on the cutting room floor. And I can sort of believe that because what they showed us on screen is very much a studio-influenced film. And you can see that in almost every frame.
I agree.
This was a movie that went to focus groups and was changed when one person thought this and another person thought that. They made it PG-13, but then they cut it so close to R. Like, a friend of mine at work today was like, can I take my son to see this? And I was like, how old is he? And he was like 5. And I was like,
no.
Ixnay on that. Like, this is very close to being a true rated R movie. But if you're going to make it as close as it was, just do it. Just go and do it then. And they didn't, and it suffers because of that.
Right. I do think that while the R rating might have helped it a bit, I think to get it over the hump to being an actual good movie, it needed a better script. Just fundamentally, it needed a better script.
And it sounds like a better editor, because from what they cut of it, it seems like it could be a better film. Now, what we were left with was still not very interesting and didn't make a whole lot of sense. And at one point, Venom makes out with Tom Hardy.
Which is weird.
Which is a thing that happens on screen.
When I first heard that, when people were saying that, I was like, that's bullshit. People are exaggerating. No, they weren't. They really weren't.
Presented as a romantic moment. No spoilers in that at all, I guess. Because this movie's just so weird. Like, it really does feel like an early 2000s superhero movie gone wrong.
I mean, it's got all of the trappings. Like, there are a number of moments where they are clearly, during these sad Eddie Brock 40 minutes, you can see this super poorly done foreshadowing. They're like, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. Like, because okay, this doesn't spoil anything to the plot, right? But this is just something that happens. You can extrapolate more from my statement. But he's got a neighbor, right? This is before he gets the Venom powers. He's got this neighbor, and he's like a really mild-mannered kind of guy. He's got this neighbor who is like a rock metal guy, and he plays his guitar in his apartment, and it's really loud, and he gets really mad, but he never goes next door to like tell that guy to turn it down. Yep. So guess what happens later on? Yeah. Right, like there's a couple of things like that. And you're like, yeah, I know what's going to happen. There's no surprises.
I see your beats coming. Like, right. I get what the path you're funneling us down to.
Right. There was never a time in the movie where I was like, oh, that was a surprise. There was never a time I was like, that's going to happen. Yeah, that's going to happen. Yep, that's going to. He's even going to say this joke. Yeah, all right.
I think the makeout scene is one thing that surprised me.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I'll give the movie that.
I mean, I think what surprised me more was the fan service that wasn't there.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair point.
You know, like there was one early moment of fan service where I leaned over and I was like, you got that? But even then, like later on.
And that's a pretty deep cut for most people, I would argue.
I would think so, unless you're like a deep Spider fan. But then there's a moment later on where they talk about Eddie Brock and how the controversy at the paper in New York that got him kicked back to LA or wherever we are in
San Francisco.
Movie. And they had to call it the Daily Globe because the Daily Bugle is owned by Marvel. Yeah. So little moments like that stood out too.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is a classic case of, if we want to be honest about this, it's not a classic case. It's what we're seeing right now. Sony is desperate to hold on to as many of these properties as they possibly can and suck as much money out of the Marvel name as they possibly can while they have the rights to this. And they somehow convinced Tom Hardy to be in this.
They lied to him, dude.
They had to have. There was some kind of Whoopi Goldberg kangaroo movie kind of weird thing going on here.
Yeah, they were definitely like, yeah, Spider-Man is in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Sign here.
Yeah, you're Spider-Man's greatest villain. No, he isn't. But like you're Venom. You're anti-Spider-Man, so you're gonna get to fight Spider-Man at some point. You're gonna be in the Marvel movies. And Tom Hardy was probably like, yeah, that's dope. That's awesome. Yeah. I see those movies. They're great. And then he signed the contract, and they're like, so here's the thing.
Actually,
you're not gonna be, and
we can't even say the word Spider-Man. So
it's fundamentally a mess. But that point about Sony just trying to suck as much blood out of that stone is absolutely true. The only thing I can hope, and I don't generally hope for movies to fail, I hope they're successful, but what I can only hope as a fan of the MCU and as a fan, I'm not a huge Venom fan, but like I'd like to see him done right.
I was in 1995.
Yeah, when
Todd McFarlane was drawing him and he was popular, like
right, and you were a fucking edgelord.
Yeah, everything's
so edgy, man.
Put more pouches on there.
Right, exactly.
But you know, times have changed, things have changed, and this character could have evolved to be more interesting and different, and he doesn't. And then, you know, the Venom symbiote itself. Don't even get me started on the two pronunciations of that. Why they couldn't have.
Yeah, I said symbiote earlier. I apologize.
It's just not faithful to anything that makes the character interesting. Now, with all of that said, if we eliminate our comic fandom and look at this as, I just saw the trailer and I maybe like the Marvel movies and cool, Venom, I'm going to go see that. It's dumb. It's stuff blows up. Characters fight each other. There's a chase scene. The motorcycle stuff's kind of rad. It has dumb jokes. It has jokes that are kind of witty, actually. There's a couple that were legitimately funny.
There are a couple that land.
Yeah. And the director of this was the guy that did Zombieland. So it kind of makes sense that some of it was genuinely funny. Yeah. But a lot of it was kind of uncomfortably funny because you felt bad.
I'm like, poor Tom Hardy has to be in this movie.
And he did a good job with the character. He played it as wacky as he could. He was just like, fuck it, I'm just going to go crazy.
Yeah, no, that was clear that the direction was, fuck it. Yeah. Just go for it. He was like, oh, really? Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, no problem.
Sure. He could have played this way straighter, but he didn't.
Yeah.
But they clearly, like, the tagline was, there's too many heroes, or something like that. And then they clearly, he becomes a hero at the end of it. It's very much a rote, step-by-step comic book movie.
It's so by the numbers, man. Like there's the forest chase scene. Like I could pick out all of the big moments in any comic book movie between like 2000 to 2007. I could probably pick out most of those, like almost shot for shot, and a lot of it. And that to me was the waste. And I'm not saying like they had to do Agent Venom to get me interested, but that would have been a much more interesting avenue. But they wanted to do classic Venom, which is fine, but the classic style of Venom doesn't work without Spider-Man. He really doesn't.
Look, the shame of it is that this reflects more poorly on Sony than anything. Like not just the studio itself, but who they chose to edit, who they listen to in the boardrooms. Like you don't get it. And if you don't decide to do something that is forward thinking, it's not going to be successful. Now, with that said, this is tracking, I read, towards a $65 million opening weekend.
I cannot believe that's possible.
Because nothing else is coming out.
I can't believe that's possible.
That's what they're saying. People, I think, will go see it based on the name. Right?
That second weekend is going to be brutal.
You're absolutely right. I would be surprised if this made $100 million. I don't think it cost $100 million.
It did. It cost, well, without the marketing budget, it's $100 million. Is it
exactly $100 million?
Yeah.
I would have guessed $10 million less than that. I would have guessed $90 million.
Yeah.
So at least I was close.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You're talking at least another $75 to $100 million in marketing.
And all those other things.
It's not going to make its money back.
Maybe in the international market.
Yeah, unless China goes crazy for
There's
it.
There's no Chinese people in it.
I know that's kind of their thing. They're like, just say China wants and we're good.
Yeah,
like we're all in.
Didn't they? They did not. There was no Chinese
No,
character.
there's no one landed in China.
Nope.
No one did
talked
anything
about China.
No.
Yep.
Yeah. So you fucked up.
Yeah, that's where you fucked up.
Yeah, you should have grabbed one Chinese acting star, and you could have probably been good.
That's all you had to do. And they could have picked somebody from maybe one of those. There are some Indian actors in it. Maybe one of them is from Bollywood, and that's where they're going to roll with.
Yeah,
I wouldn't know. I've never seen a Bollywood movie.
That's probably for the best.
Yeah, I'd give it 1.5 out of 5 stars.
That's where I am too.
I'd watch it on Netflix once, and maybe I'd watch it with my friends if it could achieve some kind of funny call status or something.
Yeah. I would have to be severely drunk to watch this again.
It would be there's going to be a drinking game movie made out of this. There has to be. And that would be great. I'd participate in that.
All right, there you go. Yeah. It's good if you want to get shit-faced. Watch it. That's pretty much our score.
That's perfect.
All right, so that's it. 1.5 out of 5 for Venom. Go see it? ? Don't know. All right, that's it, guys, and we will see you next time. Bye. You're watching the Nerdpocalypse YouTube channel. Make sure you click that button to subscribe and check out our weekly podcast where we talk about movie, TV, news, tech, and weird stories from around the internet.